Lessons. What's your Goliath? Hi, I'm Michael Brundy. One of my favorite quotes is that in life, we will always be faced with a series of God-ordained opportunities, brilliantly disguised as problems and challenges. Let me talk to you now about some problems and challenges. Probably because I was very small as a youngster, one of my favorite stories has always been the story of David and Goliath. Young David had slain lions and bears in defense of his sheep, but it was his battle with the giant Goliath that really changed his life's path. Goliath made him a hero. It caused him to gain the attention of King Saul. It pointed his life in a new direction and ultimately led him to be the greatest king in the Bible. When I was a young man, I met one of the most interesting and beautiful women in America. I sat on the plane directly behind the beautiful Vanessa Williams. Vanessa Williams was the first black Miss America in 1984. She was recognized as a supreme symbol of beauty, and in person, she lived up to the reputation. But this was one of the worst days in her life. It was the day Penthouse published nude pictures of her, and the country was in an uproar. Needless to say, I had conflicting views about it all, but I was really glad to be in that seat. Over the years, I've watched her and how she has bounced back from that day. She has become an excellent actress, model, singer, mother, and much more. Most folks don't even remember that bad day of her past. I'd say she whipped her giant in her life, and she used it as a stepping stone to greater things. It takes courage to live a full life. Well, do you need another example of someone living a full life, confronting obstacles? Well, how about Abraham Lincoln? People don't even mention his setbacks, even though they are well known. He lost his job when he was defeated for the state legislature. He failed in his business. His sweetheart died and he had a nervous breakdown. He lost his nomination bid for Congress. He was defeated in his run for the U.S. Senate, not once, but twice, and was defeated for the nomination of vice president, but he was finally elected president in 1860. Lincoln turned out to be one of our greatest presidents. He set an example of a bipartisan cabinet that few presidents have ever matched. He managed and won the Civil War and was wise enough to suggest no punishment for the losing South. He obviously had learned a lot from his previous defeats and obstacles. For some unknown reason, I've always liked these comeback stories. I'm drawn to stories where someone has had a rough time, but they persevered and overcame. I think it's probably a legacy of being a small youngster. It caused me to see things from a view of the underdog, the little guy. My brother Jeff agrees with my father and me on that aspect of my life. They think that it's really colored me, and it's made a difference in my accomplishments. There seems to be a learning that takes place when we work our way through obstacles. When we decide to work through the obstacle, either because we see ourselves as a fighter or we may feel that our back is up against the wall. Either way, when we do that, we persist. And when we persist, we find solutions. We find new strength. We find people that are willing to help us. We find out that we can last another day. We find out that the obstacle hasn't stopped us because we haven't quit. Now, when that problem occurs again, we're less afraid. See, we've worked through it in the past, and we know what to expect. We've developed some new skills, some new strengths. What I've learned is that circumstances don't make the man, but rather they reveal the man. See, how we confront our difficulties determines how they work out. It's who we are, not what's happening, that matters most. How do you choose to respond when you face giants, when you face obstacles? The David and Goliath story suggests that we approach these problems with boldness. It suggests that we prepare ourselves, realizing the tools and the weapons that will work for us. In that story, the king offered David his armor, but David chose his slingshot and 3 smooth stones. He had his own tools. Well, once we apply that, we should not procrastinate, but go after it. And David didn't procrastinate. He walked right up to Goliath and slung his stones without any hesitation. And we should finish what we start. We should be swift and decisive, just as David was. He immediately cut off Goliath's head as soon as he fell to the ground. Now, I can't guarantee that if you use David's approach that you will gain the attention of the king or that you will end up with riches and fame. But I am sure that you will grow. Just like with Vanessa Williams, I am sure that something new and different and totally unexpected will happen to you when you confront your problems and obstacles. Just like with Abraham Lincoln, I'm sure that confronting your obstacles will prepare you for the future problems further down the road. I can also tell you from the problems that I've faced in my own life that life is just so unpredictable. You really never know what's around the next corner. What other people mean for your destruction really can work out in your favor. It's just how life is. Things change. People change. And these changes can cause problems. They present new circumstances in our lives. Now the question is, how will we handle the new circumstance? 1. This is what I say. Be bold. Don't back down from problems. Don't let them get you down. Realize that they are a part of life and they are unavoidable. 2. Develop a plan. You need a plan to address your problems. There is always something that we can do. Sometimes just restating the problem or turning the problem into an answer can help us find a solution. 3. The third thing to do is go into action. Don't hesitate and hope the problem will go away on its own. They seldom do. The sooner you get at it, the sooner it will be over. This is something that we learn as children. Just quickly swallow that nasty medicine and it'll all be over with. The really interesting thing about problems is how they look from a distance. You know, after we put some distance between us and the problem, after we've handled them, well, when we look back, they never seem to be as fierce as they were when we were going through them. We see that we did make it through, and we are surprised by the things that have happened as a result of us handling our problems. See, what happens is that we find out that we can have an impact on our health, on our finances, on our careers. We can find a way out. We find out that we can survive a broken heart, that we can get over the obstacles. I say confront the giants in your life. It's all a matter of perspective. And it can work for David, and if it can work for Vanessa, and if it can work for Abraham, it can work for you. I've learned that in life we will always be faced with a series of God-ordained opportunities, brilliantly disguised as problems and challenges. The difference will be your attitude. Hey, a special thanks and a special shout out to my old man. My old man never let me use my size as an excuse. That turned out to be one of the most valuable lessons that I've ever learned. Thanks, Daddy. Miss you much. Love you more. Joe's boy.